Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. First, we'll begin with the roll call. I believe everyone is here. Mr. Garber's on Zoom. Can you? No, he's not on. Okay, then Mr. Garber's not present. Everyone else, board members, is present. So we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to announce that before this meeting tonight, the board met in exec session to discuss a personnel matter. We were given a legal update and to discuss collective bargaining. Next part, moving on. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening, incorporating additions and deletions, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. Thank you. Motion carries 8-0.
Mr. Garber is online now and did vote for that.
Okay. Okay, next is to approve the minutes for the regular school board meeting held April 9th, the minutes for the Education and Policy and Personnel and Legal Committee meetings held on April 18th, and the minutes for the Buildings and Grounds and Finance Committee meeting held on April 30th. Could I have a motion to approve those, please?
So moved.
Thank you again, Mrs.
Second.
Johnson. Thank you, Mrs. Brady. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And Mr. Garber got indication, so that motion carries 9-0 with it. And I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Bremerski for student and staff recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. Good evening. It's great to see everybody here tonight. We're going to begin tonight with some of our third grade students from Mountville Elementary. So I have Dr. Kane come up to the podium. And for our board members, you can see in front of you simple machines that were made by our third graders at Mountville. And many of us were able to get out to Mountville to see their Simple Machines fair a few weeks ago. And while we were out there, I believe it was Mr. Keener who said it'd be great if we can get some of our students here to share some of their inventions with us. And so we worked with Dr. Kane. So Dr. Kane, I can see you.
Yep, I'm
now,
over
so
here.
We'll turn it over to you.
So I am pleased to bring 5 of our third grade students who have been learning about Simple Machines. Each spring, our students learn about this as part of their curriculum, and they apply that knowledge to design a game or a toy, which includes at least one Simple Machine for the Simple Machines Science Fair. And so the students that I brought with me this evening, we have Joseli Arce, Daniel Hopkins, Jacob Haldeman, Olivia Musser, and Kayla Padrone. And I also have my third grade team who's also here with me, Ashley Moyer, Rachel Smith, and Sheridan Dominguez. They came out for their team, and I'm gonna welcome our students up to be able to explain to you what Simple Machine and toy or game that they have made. Well, it looks like they've been waiting all day, literally, some of them doing jumps and cartwheels at school.
Microphone?
Yes, we'll go right there, right there.
So, here, Dan, all right, wanna go first? All right, Joseli's gonna go first.
Do I start off?
All about what you made, the title, your name, what you made.
Hello, my name is Joseli Arce, and I would just like to thank you all for letting me have this opportunity. I appreciate it very much. My Simple Machine is about a pulley system. I made a well. My well is called Well. It's just a well. It's a fixed pulley, and when you pull it down, I put ducks in it, which it have points on the bottom, and there's 3 points, 9 points, 13 points, 17 points, and 19 points. I put the ducks in there, and then so when people pull the well down, they can get a duck. And then you get 3 tries to get the duck. And then we'll count all the ducks up. And then this is 13 points.
Perfect. All right, we'll go to Olivia, who's going to talk to us about her project.
My name is Olivia, and my simple machine, I called it Zoe Pup Treat Toss, and it's a catapult, and you gotta like row it, so it's like a catapult, and then you gotta like fling it in the mouth. Oop. Yeah. And like try to get it into the mouth.
Thank you, Olivia. We next have Caleb Padron. Caleb, tell us about yours.
My name is Caleb. My project name is the Diff. Basically, it has 4 sample machines: a screw, a pulley, a wedge, and an inclined plane. Basically, this is how it works. Basically, you can either choose if you want to get the first one to 50 or first one to 100. It's your choice. Basically, you pull this, the pulley lifts that up. If it goes off, that's 0 points. Also, yes, I really like this one. I can't wait to share it with my own family.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jacob.
So this is my simple machine, Feed the Ducko. So we got 1 point, 2 point. Most of you can't see it, but we have tiny baby ducko back there for 10 points. So basically, I'm gonna need someone to hold the mic, please. And basically, I'm gonna try one more time. I'm gonna try and go for 10 points instead, because that's way too hard.
He's going for 10.
By the way, the goal is 10 points down here. So close. It went like, it went straight over.
All right, and finally, we have Daniel.
My name is Daniel, and my simple machine is called the hydraulic arm. The simple machines it uses is a lever and a wheel and axle. And here's a demonstration for my project.
So as you can see, the students not only apply the knowledge that they've learned in science about the simple machines, but also then take some creativity and they're able to create different games and just, as you can see from Daniel, using some robotics in there to be able to create something that's really special and fun. Thank you.
So thank you to our Mountville Elementary third grade teachers and students and the 5 of you who are here tonight, and for your families who are here tonight to come out. We really appreciate you taking the time to come and be representatives of Mountville and share the great creativity and the great culmination of the Simple Machines unit. It was an absolutely beautiful day over at Mountville when this occurred. Lots of people coming and attending, and the kids did a phenomenal job explaining not only what they created, but really understanding and demonstrating an understanding of the use of Simple Machines. So really well done. Congratulations, guys.
And Mr. Bromowski, if I can add, I had the pleasure of attending the event. Thank you, Mrs. Warner, for organizing. I know Mrs. Brady and Mrs. Eshelman were there as well. And just the level of creativity demonstrated by the students. I wouldn't know how to do any of this stuff. And to see them put this together and have them work and explain it in the confident way that they did truly was, I think, the epitome of why we're all here. So thank you.
And I just wanted to add too, I think that last part, the explaining it,
Yeah.
that whole bringing it all together, not just understanding it, doing it, making it, but then be able to explain it is, we had a great time. So thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay if you'd like. The next piece under student staff recognition, I just want to acknowledge, oh, you're fine, Mrs. Moore. I want to acknowledge that on May 1st, we had our annual staff retirement and Black Knight Awards celebration dinner. During that evening, which was a great evening, we celebrated 29 Black Knight Award winners. Those individuals came from over 150 nominations from staff across the district. And then we also acknowledged and celebrated our retirees who collectively, I believe if I recall correctly, was 613 years of experience within the Hempfield School District. Is that correct, Mrs. Burkholder? So just want to acknowledge again and thank all of our Black Knight Award winners as well as our retirees for everything you do. It was absolutely a wonderful evening, and I know several board members were there, and thank you for coming and being part of that evening as well. Next, from a student recognition standpoint, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Avery Landis for her final board meeting as student council president.
Yes, so this will be my final board meeting as student council president, and before I graduate, it's been really nice to be able to work with all the staff and administrators, and as well as like my fellow classmates, like during this whole school year. It's honestly been really great. We've been trying to reinstate old traditions that we lost while creating new ones as well, and I think we did a really great balance of seeing what the students wanted and being able to incorporate that. So I'm just gonna pull up a quick little kind of list of everything that we got accomplished this year, and then I'm gonna pass it on to Lauren to kind of give her part as well. So beginning of each semester, we attended both back to school nights and helped parents kind of be able to find the classrooms that they needed, answer any questions from a student's perspective, and that's something that we always like to do. And then the fall's our busy time. So we had the Fall Fling, which we provided soft pretzels for the entire school and their staff members. We went over the Powder Puff, Grill Out, and Homecoming game, which in all cases was pretty much organized by us and the staff, as well as our advisors, Mr. Rahani and Dr. Huff. And then the parade was something that we brought new to Hempfield this year. We resurrected it from a very old tradition. We were able to get 5 fire stations and 2 police departments involved, 14 sport teams, and then we had people volunteer to let us use their convertibles for the homecoming court, which was really cool. And then we had a lot of people show up from the community, even though the weather, it wasn't great. It was pretty rainy, but we had enough people, and the people let us use the convertibles, kept their roofs down, which they got all their cars wet, but you know what? It was great. And we hope to expand this every year and kind of add more and get more like Hempfield like community involved, which is really nice to see. For our fall and spring food drive, for the fall collection, we raised 2,712 pounds of food. And in the fall, we are in charge of collecting and sorting all the boxes of food, kind of making sure it's getting ready to go, packaged so it's easy, so when we deliver it, it's not too much of a hassle. The variety show, we had a lot of people audition for the variety show this year, and it was really great to see all the talent, but the bad side is we do have to make cuts because we had so many great acts audition. A lot of time and effort was put into it from our side as well as the act side. It was really great to see that they want to show their talents to as many people as like they can. Like it's not something that they're just trying to hide from us, which was really great to see everybody. And then I wasn't in attendance, but we had a few people go to the Student Leadership Conference. I don't know if you want to touch on that real quick because I was not in attendance for that.
So we were invited to Solenco High School to a leadership conference, and a few of us were able to attend. And we got like so many great ideas from this event that we were able to include some this year, but we're also looking to do a few additional events next year that we weren't able to implement this year. Some examples would include the curbside coffee event, which we were able to provide coffee and baked goods to all the bus drivers in December to really recognize them. And Varsity Club also helped us out with funding the pastries and coffee as well as orange juice. We also received like a really sweet email back from a bus driver on how like they really appreciated being recognized and that we see them and what they do for us, and getting all the students over to Hempfield every day without fail. We also were able to listen to a speaker, John Paul Gonzalez. He spoke about All In, which is kind of his like slogan, about like kind of putting everything you've got into what you do, and like he was really passionate about it, and we like thought this would be a great opportunity for the students to like hear his speech and what his message is. And so we were able to bring him into our school for an assembly, and we got everyone a Hempfield bracelet that said HHS All In, just like as a reminder of what his speech was about and his message. So it was a really honorable like experience for all of us, and I know a lot of students enjoyed it as well. We also had him speak to athletes and sports teams, because he really touched like on that a lot, because he was able to speak with the Giants, yeah. And so he like really worked with athletes a lot, and I thought that would really help with like all the sports that's going on throughout the entire year. And we're really excited to implement the many more events that we weren't able to get to this year, so yep, something to look forward to.
All right, and then moving past that, we had our Random Acts of Kindness week, where we ordered donuts and orange juice for each of our support staff members and for their faculty meeting with Dr. Brosman. Some new things that we added this year was the Black Knight Award. We recognize students not just for their academic or their athletic or any like successes like that. We felt like this should go to kids that don't necessarily get picked out for those things. They just are good kids trying to do their best, and I feel like we wanted to see that recognized a little bit more, like being awarded for just being a good person. So it was nominated by teachers and staff for demonstrating Hempfield pride, and a $15 gift cards given to students of their choice. We had things like Starbucks, Dunkin', Amazon, Barnes & Noble, stuff like that. We've already given 48 of those awards away, and we will give 8 more awards in May, sorry. And then this last new event was kind of, it's not really my project at all, but I felt like it was kind of my baby. I really enjoyed it. It was our new winter formal. A lot of time and thought was spent into planning it, decorating it, kind of seeing what we wanted to do, what kids wanted to see. We opened an hour early for the Life Skills and Buddy Club to have their own dance with family, because sometimes in normal dance settings, the environment's too loud for them. So we wanted to get something more calming for them so they could still enjoy a dance of their own. And we had almost 500 students attend that dance for the first one. So I think more traction will come to it year after year. And we got a lot of positive feedback from it. So I was really happy to see that it was well received after last year. We tried to do it and things didn't work out. So I'm glad that we kept pursuing it and kept working towards it. And then our last one for the year, we had our spring shebang. What we did was a rock, paper, scissors tournament. So every kid came in the school, they were given a bead necklace for their color coordinated to their grade, and you could only compete against someone in your grade, and if you won, you got their bead. And you had to get 5 beads in order to go for a teacher's beads. And then after we got out early, we went to the spring shebang at the stadium. We had the people with the most beads in each grade come and compete against each other. And we had prizes for those winners. I think one of the prizes for the senior, Kenna, he got a pretty nice parking spot in front of the Franklin, which is a hot commodity for us. And then we did just have our elections. So just to recap, this year I was president, Lauren was my vice president, Alex Gregory and Addie Lieber were our secretaries, Drew Brenchick was the treasurer, and Ethan was our social media specialist. And then moving forward, our president for next year will be Lauren, and then I'll have her take it away with the rest of the officers, as well as what she'd like to do in the future. I just wanted to say that it has been an honor working with Hempfield. It's a bittersweet ending to a good part of my life here at Hempfield, been through K through 12, so it's really nice. I will always remember the great teachers that I had, a few of them behind me right now. That really has shaped me into who I am today, and I can't thank them enough. I'm going to Penn State to major in education myself, so I kind of want to give forward what was given back to me. But I really can't thank this school district enough. They will always have a special place in my heart here at Hempfield, and I will always remember it moving forward, so thank you.
And Lauren, before you go on, I attended the senior awards night 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, and at the end, the staff gave out, I think they were new this year, Hempfield Awards, and the teachers picked for the different departments going through there, but the last award that was given out that night was the Leadership Award, which the building administrators, I believe, picked, and Avery won that award, and I could not think of anyone from how you've handled yourself in these meetings. You've represented along with your fellow officers, you've really represented student council well, and sometimes we've been very difficult with you, but you've handled it very professionally. I think you'll be a great teacher someday. So I'd like to just give Avery a round of applause for what and good luck. Lauren, you can continue now.
Thank you.
Lauren, before you start, I just want to say congratulations. You guys really went above and beyond this year. I particularly appreciate that you took the time to notice part of our staff that often doesn't get noticed, but if they weren't here, we sure would miss those bus drivers. We would miss the people who keep our buildings running, the people who keep our buildings clean, the ones who help our teachers in their classrooms. So thank you so much for those appreciation times that you did for them. Extra parties and balls, everybody's always up for those, so thank you for that as well. And looking forward to working with you, Lauren, and your staff of officers too in the coming year. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
If I may, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If I can chime in as well, Avery. It's on some of the policy issues that we dealt with this year. The student council's input was critical. I mean, everything that we do ultimately relates back to the students, and hearing the input from the student leadership in the nuanced professional way that you and your colleagues delivered it was, I know, very helpful to me in my decision making as a board member, and I'm confident that a number of our colleagues on the board feel the same way. And I mean, I think that it's great that you guys put on the social events for the students. That's a critical part of what y'all do, but I never want people to overlook the important role that you play in providing a student perspective to the board's deliberations. And I mean, personally, I'd like to put a placeholder on a board agenda in the summer of 2028 and welcome you back here at some point.
Thank you. My name is Lauren Choi, and I'll be the vice president, or sorry, I'll be the president for the 2024-25 school year coming up. Unfortunately, the other officers were not able to make it this evening, but I would still like to introduce them just to get familiar with their names. For vice president, we have Alex Gregory, and secretary will be Addie Lieber. Treasurer, we have Sophia Deibler, and social outreach will be Eliza Vermani. We're all really excited to work with the new group next year, and we're looking forward to all the new events and improving upon past events for the next school year. And we're already planning for a bunch of things, including the new school store, which we have been planning since we had a little break in between in the spring when we didn't have much going on. And one of our representatives brought up the idea of bringing in a school store, which we already brought up a name for, which is the Knight's Nook. This will be located in the cafeteria, and we'll sell Hempfield merch and school supplies to students and staff throughout the school year, kind of just spread school spirit, and just in case someone forgets their pencils or their notebooks, they can always just drop by the store and pick something up. So we plan on continuing to work on that over the summer and hopefully open for the next school year. I would like to take this time to also recognize and give a shout out to our representatives and officers this year for all their hard work. We had so many new events and old events that we've worked really hard for this year, and there was just a lot to keep track of and a lot to show up for, and they really you could tell how dedicated they were to being a part of student council, and everyone showed up and always did their best with all the work that we had for them. So I really appreciated that. As well as the officers or the advisors. Our club advisors, Mr. Vermani and Dr. Huff, they really do a lot for us in helping us organize and keep track of all the events. Even though the students, they'll graduate and we'll get new representatives, new officers elected and re-elected every year, they're always there, and throughout the years we have old events, and they have all the notes of what we wanted to improve on, what the feedback we got from years before, and they keep track of everything for us, and it's always so nice to have them to organize and give us feedback and keep track of everything for the new school years, and they really keep the club running despite it being a student club. We really rely on them heavily. So I would like to acknowledge and I really appreciate all the hard work that they put into our club. So, yep, thank you so much.
So, to our entire student council on behalf of the district, I sincerely want to thank you. It's been a great year being able to work with you, interact with you, and I know back in the fall, when the school year started, Dr. Brossman and the rest of the high school administrative team kind of threw out the challenge to raise the bar. And it has been an absolute joy and honor to watch all of you collectively embrace that challenge and truly embrace that theme, not only within your heart, but within your passion and willingness to really serve as positive ambassadors in the high school and really hit hard on trying to focus on creating that positive culture. You clearly exceeded raising the bar as a student council group, and you absolutely should be proud of that. We're very proud of you and all the work that you have done and all the events from this year. Whether they were existing from the past or the new ones, rain or shine, it didn't matter. All of you showed up regardless of the weather, regardless of how many people were in attendance, because you did it for your peers, you did it for the community, and you did it for the high school. And you all deserve a tremendous amount of credit for that. So I thank you, and I look forward to Lauren working with you in the future and the rest of your team from the Student Council for the upcoming year. And Avery, on behalf of the district, you've been a phenomenal leader. You have tremendous leadership skills. I was not surprised to hear that you received the leadership award. I would have loved to have been there. Sorry that I was sick, but you absolutely deserved it. You've done a phenomenal job, and you've set a tremendous bar for future student council representatives and leaders. I know you're going to do a phenomenal job at Penn State. You're going to rock the education program, and I know everybody in this room would love to welcome you back to Hempfield in 2028, in that time frame, whenever you're ready, because you will do amazing work. And just seeing you over the last year really grow from the past and into your current role, the Student Council is set up for great success. So thank you for that, and congratulations to all the Student Council. Anything else from our Student Council? You are welcome to stay. Also, there are now empty seats now that we have some of our Mountville families leave, so feel free for others to come and sit. You're welcome to do that. Mr. Donato, I will turn it back to you for residents' requests.
For Student Council, for seniors, you may want to stay. One of the nice things that we do get to do later in this is approve a tentative list of graduates. So it's not official until next week, until you're actually handed your diploma, but we approve the list. So that's a little later. And no, we don't read off the 500 some names. That's next week. We just approve the list with it. Okay, next is residents' request to speak to the board. The board provides time of public comment for residents and taxpayers to bring their thoughts to the board, but it's not a time for exchange between the board, administration, and speaker. We ask that speakers refrain from identifying specific students, staff, or community members by name. Residents and taxpayers who are interested in making public comments must complete the electronic registration form prior to 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. And I believe we have 5 requests to address the board. I'll turn it over.
Our first speaker this evening is Carolyn Gangle, who will be followed by Joanna Jennings.
Good evening. If I get emotional tonight, I am emotional about this situation, but I'm even more emotional about saying goodbye to the dog my daughter was raising for Susquehanna Service Dogs, but was not allowed to bring to her student teaching assignment here at Hempfield. The ATF is picking her up tomorrow to take her for advanced training, and Mari said, "Oh my God, Mom, you gotta put a sweater on. You are not dressed to speak before this board tonight." So, I'd just like to say that. I can't believe I'm up here again talking about this. Why Hempfield teachers deserve a raise. I was disheartened, actually sickened, to hear that the contract negotiations between the district and the teachers union were not going well. I dug a little deeper into the issue. Hempfield's not that big a district, and was astounded to find out that the union reps had been told they had to justify why the teachers deserved a raise. Wow. I didn't believe. I mean, that's not negotiating in good faith. I don't think so, but, you know, what do I know? Unbelievable was my first reaction. Not this BS again was my second reaction. My twins just graduated from Millersville and E-Town, and that leads me to my first answer to them, a question of why they deserve a raise. Our teachers deserve a raise for their Herculean task of teaching remotely during the COVID crisis than teaching classes of in-person and remote students concurrently as we tried to make our kids think everything was going to be okay. The second reason our teachers deserve a raise is demonstrated by the college and university graduates from Hempfield of the class of 2024. They are the members of the Hempfield class of 2020, or the COVID graduates. Their accomplishments reflect the dedication of Hempfield's teachers throughout all the challenges COVID brought with it. The class of 2020 here in Hempfield now has students in Phi Beta Kappa or pursuing graduate degrees like my Megan, who will begin graduate studies in occupational therapy tomorrow morning. And the class has new, energetic, motivated teachers in special education, like my daughter Mari. And thank you. I do thank you sincerely for letting Mari to complete her student teaching at Mountville Elementary. It was an incredibly positive experience for her. Some of you might recall me speaking to the board during the last contract negotiations when I said all of my daughter's successes in school they were due to our teachers and the special education staff genuinely caring about her. I'm sorry about breaking protocol here. Among them were Jen Karkoska, Jim J, Mrs. Riccozzi, and Mrs. B, whose name I cannot pronounce. You gave her a very nice honor recently. But there are so many more teachers who were part of preparing Mari for success in life. Mari graduated in 8 semesters instead of her program's 9-semester curriculum, making the dean's list every semester. Now remember, this is my daughter who was in special education here at Hempfield because of a reading disability. I always told her she would have a job in her hands before she'd have a diploma on the wall, and she didn't believe me. Within a week of the Millersville Employment Fair, Mari had received 2 job offers. Within 2 weeks, she had 3 job offers. About 6 weeks ago, she signed a contract as an 8th grade math learning support teacher in the Central Dauphin School District. When she graduated, Mari already had her certifications in early childhood education and special education in her pocket. When her name and degree were announced less than 2 weeks ago, they were followed by magna cum laude. My kid who couldn't read until these teachers got involved and shook.
Thank you. Your time is.
Our next speaker is Joanna Jennings, who will be followed by Nuss Boland.
Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, esteemed president, thank you for this opportunity to address you today. I stand before you not just as a concerned citizen and taxpayer, but as someone deeply invested in the future of education in our community. My daughter is a proud graduate of Hempfield High School, and my son is currently in 10th grade. Many of their teachers are also here, and it was awesome to see their faces. Today, I want to emphasize a critical issue that affects not only the quality of education our children receive, but also the very fabric of our society, the need to pay our teachers, counselors, and specialists well. Our teachers are the backbone of our educational system and academic programming. They dedicate countless hours to shaping the minds of our children, instilling knowledge, fostering critical thinking, and nurturing their growth beyond the classroom. Yet, despite of the crucial role that they play, teachers across the nation are facing a crisis of undervaluation and a general disrespect for the teaching profession. That's why so many are leaving the profession, while fewer and fewer people go into the teaching profession. The number of teaching certificates awarded by PA is at an all-time low. I went to a training and I heard that last year only one teaching certificate in physics was awarded. One. I guarantee more than one retired. We are facing a crisis. State-of-the-art facilities, rigorous curriculum, and amazing extracurriculars mean nothing if there aren't committed, effective teachers to implement them. When we fail to adequately compensate our teachers, we undermine the foundation of our educational system. We discourage talented individuals from entering the teaching profession, and we risk losing experienced educators who feel undervalued and overburdened. This not only harms the morale of our teachers, but it also diminishes the quality of education our students receive. It also makes Hempfield look bad in comparison to other local districts that have decided to give their teachers not just a fair raise, but a really good raise. Paying our teachers well is not just a matter of fairness. It's an investment in the future of our children and our society as a whole. Well-compensated teachers are more likely to feel valued and motivated to excel in their profession. They are better equipped to meet the diverse needs of their students, creating a more inclusive and enriching learning environment. Moreover, attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers is essential for maintaining the academic excellence Hempfield is so proud of. When our teachers are compensated fairly, we can attract top talent to our schools, ensuring that our students receive the best possible education. This in turn enhances the reputation of our school district and strengthens our community as a whole. But the benefits of paying our teachers well extend far beyond the walls of our classrooms. Studies have consistently shown that societies with higher teacher salaries experience lower rates of teacher turnover, higher student achievement, and increased economic growth. By investing in our teachers, we're investing in the future prosperity of our community. Please don't deny our teachers, counselors, and specialists a fair raise, and then turn around and ask them to give their all to our kids' education. And please don't make their raises a wash by giving them a raise and then making them pay more for health care. I urge you, esteemed members of the school board, to prioritize the fair compensation of our teachers. Raise taxes a fair amount if necessary. Keeping taxes low is not what will build a successful society. The quality of our education is. Let us send a clear message that we value their dedication, expertise, and unwavering commitment to the success of our children. Let us ensure that teaching remains an attractive and sustainable profession for generations to come. In conclusion, paying our teachers well is not just a matter of financial investment. It's a moral imperative and a strategic necessity. Let us rise to the challenge and make the bold decision to prioritize the well-being of our teachers and the future of our children. Thank you.
Miss Boland will be followed by Ronnie Jevons.
Hello. I think it's clear why we're all here, so I'm not going to go over that. We're here, obviously, to support a fair and competitive contract for our wonderful teachers that pour their hearts and souls into teaching our children. I moved to Hempfield and built a home in this community because of what Hempfield always stood for, in my view, which, in my opinion, was excellence in athletics, arts, and academics. A district that looked to be enriched by its differences, not divided along some arbitrary lines. Since I moved, I'll be honest, there have been moments where I have questioned my decision. However, the daily examples of care and compassion that our teachers show is what brings me peace. I can stand here and give you countless examples of moments where teachers have gone above and beyond their duty. From teachers spending their own hard-earned money to enhance a lesson or experience in a class, or extra time spent to help students understand the learning concept, our teachers truly invest in our students. Beyond the academics, just like information which I'm sure you all know, but these teachers, they hold up trash cans for children who are getting sick in class. They wipe away tears when children are hurt, whether that's a little child or a teenager. Send emails to parents to ease their minds over an anxious child, and even sit on a curb at drop-off and try to calmly get a child out of a car and ease their fears. And yes, that last one was my child. They are the cheerleaders for our students who aren't sure that they even are a good fit for an honors or an AP class. Sure, the argument can be made, the teachers that do this, they do it in many districts. So let's agree right now that teachers should be paid their worth in gold. The time and energy they put into investing into our children cannot be measured by dollars and cents. Students in Hempfield are enriched by this community of outstanding teachers. Anyone that questions that is simply tone deaf to the reality of what teachers do on a daily basis. Our teachers deserve a fair and competitive contract. The school board has raised several administrative salaries drastically over the last 5 years. I believe even our own superintendent is one of the highest paid in the county. Why do our teachers who have been at the front line since COVID not deserve to also be the highest paid in the county as well? Is central administration not educating the board on the value of our staff? I don't know. And why does everything have to be a fight? At the very least, let's compensate these amazing humans for what they do on a daily basis. I'll wrap up by saying, unless you've been living under a rock also, to add to this, the last 4 years, the cost of living has gone up. Groceries, gas, everything, prices are crazy. Teachers should not have to be begging now to make that. They shouldn't have to be begging for them to now be able to live a normal life like we all would want to with any kind of salary increase. Give our teachers a fair and competitive contract. Why? Because they deserve every single penny. That's it.
Ronnie Jevons. Ronnie will be followed by our final speaker, Aaron Small.
Hi, I do not like public speaking. I'm at almost every single school board meeting. I wasn't anticipating quite this many people. So bear with me, I would have spent a little more time working on my comments. So good evening, my name is Ronnie Jevons. I have a son and a daughter in the district, but I'm gonna use the pronoun they just because I'm sharing some more personal stories, and at least that way you don't know specifically which child I'm talking about. I have 2 second graders at Centerville. We started with both of our children in private school because I felt it could better meet their needs. I was wrong. Private school wanted my child to repeat kindergarten. When I said no, they said my child may need to leave the school if I don't agree, which I didn't. Private school hesitantly allowed them to proceed to 1st grade, but I was repeatedly told how behind they were. My child occasionally forgot their water bottle, and I get emails from the school about how they're gonna be really dehydrated because we forgot the water bottle. I suggested just giving them a cup of water, and I was told all the reasons this was a bad idea and not gonna happen. Meanwhile, my other child was already at Hempfield. Their sneakers broke at school. The top of their shoe separated from the sole. School gave them a pair of shoes to wear. So while I'm getting emails about forgotten water bottles, my other child is being handed a pair of sneakers. I didn't get a phone call. I got an email at the end of the day about the sneakers. Hey, their sneakers broke, we took care of it. It was no big deal. The school was on it. My child vomited on the bus, and the nurse helped them change, but also offered them a jacket to wear because it was cold out, and when I picked them up, they wanted to make sure they had a clean jacket to wear home. In public school, my kids were met where they were at. The teachers and staff just automatically did what was needed. The difference between our private school and public school experiences was glaring. After yet another communication about how badly my child at private school was struggling, we decided to switch our child to Hempfield in the middle of 1st grade. The child who private school was so worried about made huge gains in reading very quickly. In a matter of months, they also went from being scared of even small groups of kids to confidently hanging out with friends during the Centerville Glow Dance, which I call the Centerville Rave. If any of you have been there, you know what I'm talking about. There are lights, noise, and bodies everywhere, and my child was secure. My child is flourishing socially, emotionally, and academically at CES. You would never know it's the same child. At the beginning of kindergarten, my other child was quickly identified as not being a good fit for the private school. They needed more significant specialized services and ended up in an IU class. They made significant progress in the IU, and this year a learning disability was identified, making the IU class no longer appropriate. In November, for the first time, they attended regular public school. I'd like to read you an update I received from my child's learning support teacher in February. Quote, I just wanted to let you know how well your child did today when I checked their high-frequency word progress. They started out on the 1st grade list with 60%. Today, they mastered the 2nd grade list with 85% and got 73% on the 3rd grade list. I received that email in February. My child started Centerville mid-November. In 3 months, that's the progress they made with help from their amazing classroom and learning support teachers. I'm looking forward to getting to read the end of the year report. My child entered Centerville reading Dr. Seuss books and now sits with me before bed reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I'm running out of time. I no longer have to worry that if I forget a water bottle, I'll get a frantic email about dehydration. I know the teachers will take care of my kids when I'm not there. I no longer have to worry they will be kicked out of school if they don't meet the school standards, not because public school can't kick them out, but because the incredible teachers here make sure my children have the tools they need to succeed. Our teachers are equipped to meet so many varied challenges. I'm continually blown away by the growth I see since they became Hempfield students. We lost Mrs. Costanza, their first amazing learning support teacher last year, to another district. I don't want to see us lose any more of our amazing educators due to them being unhappy with the contract. Please take care of our teachers so they can continue to take care of our children. I did get permission for this. I would like to thank Mrs. Beach, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Whiteside, Mrs. Wurst, Mrs. Paluga, and Mrs. Horn. The difference they've all made for my children is remarkable. We need to maintain the outstanding reputation of our district, which means keeping our teachers happy, our class offerings broad, our buildings well maintained, and ensuring schools feel safe and welcoming. If that means we need to come up with an extra $10 a month to cover a more significant tax increase, to me, it's well worth it. Our property values depend in part on the reputation of our schools. Please take care of our teachers and raise taxes enough to ensure we can.
Thank you.
And Aaron Small is our final speaker this evening.
Good evening. I'm here to show my appreciation for all of you. I hope I don't start crying. Remember in 2020, in the peak of the COVID lockdown, when we all went out into our front lawns and the teachers drove their cars through the entire district just so they could wave to our students? Remembering when we were lauding teachers for their heroism and remade the entire way that school was delivered on the fly, not once, but over and over again. Our teachers taught in person and online for an entire year, while other schools across the country stayed home and only delivered virtual instruction. To list all the tasks that our teachers do every day would be impossible, or at least exhausting. They learn new curriculum, they differentiate instruction, they write detailed subplans when they're sick, they run extracurricular programs, they learn emergency plans for every sort of disaster you can imagine, including keeping your children safe from a mass shooter, with the knowledge that teachers can and have been seriously injured or killed in the course of a workday. 7 years ago, my children were finishing school at a different elementary school in a different state, in a building and a community I did not think I would ever be able to replace in the way that it cared for my kids and my family. We moved here, and it was teachers and counselors that welcomed us first. Before we made connections in our neighborhood, we had friendly voices and faces giving us tours of buildings and listening to the needs of our kids. In the time since we've been a Hempfield family, we have had teachers that have kept my child with a severe food allergy safe. We finally got another one of my children identified with an IEP. Teachers have called my child at home to help them feel brave enough to go to school the next day. They have sat next to them and made sure they turned in enough work to pass a class. They have sent encouraging notes, helped us brainstorm activities and peer connections that would help them feel less alone. They have offered tutoring, enrichment, and exciting learning opportunities. And yes, they've even told us when our kids are struggling and just needed to get their act together. We've had teachers help us through loss of a pet, a grandparent, and even a classmate. We've had them celebrate every kind of success, from passing scores to athletic accomplishments to graduation day. I see past teachers of my kids in the community, and they are genuinely interested in how they're doing years later, asking after them and their activities by name. I'm a substitute teacher too. So the ways I see teachers going above and beyond to do more and be more for the children they teach and love go far beyond my own experience as a parent. They are not just up in front of the class. They are making connections, teaching lessons in the hallways, in the corner, on the floor, out on the grass. I say all of this because teachers are grateful to get any acknowledgement of their efforts. A donut in the staff lounge is often what passes for a bonus in the world of education. A handwritten note of thanks is something I used to put in a folder to get me through a tough day later on. So this is my heartfelt note of thanks for all the teachers in Hempfield. If we want them to stay here and keep giving of themselves in the ways that we do, we should follow through with our very best offerings.
Thank you to our speakers. I'll turn this over to Mr. Boberski for the superintendent's report.
Thank you and good evening again. For the superintendent's report, we're going to begin tonight with a special education plan updates. This will be presented by Dr. Musser, Mrs. Jen Zelinas, and Dr. Meredith Goodrich. Jen and Meredith are elementary and secondary special education supervisors, so I will turn it over to the three of you.
Good evening. Tonight, we're just going to give you an overview about our special education plan and start with the highlights of the plan. It is a state mandated plan that we are required to do every 3 years, and it's part of our overall district comprehensive plan. The requirements that the schools we have to do is we have to give information from Hempfield, also IU, all our CTCs and other agencies that we work with. We also have to identify criteria with students with specific learning disabilities, and there's a whole section throughout the plan that we have to answer various questions about. We have to identify all the supplementary aids and services that we provide for our students, and access to the full continuum that we have of services through the school district. We identify procedures for behavioral supports, which would include a lot of the, we now have a BCBA on staff, so we would get into detail about the plans that we do, functional behavior assessments, positive behavior support plans. Meredith and I have to put all that specific things in the plan. We also identify procedures for special ed in approved private schools and other institutions that we work with and provide services in the community here at Hempfield. And we have to identify procedures for non-resident students in private homes or institutions or various residential programs as well.
As part of the process, we have the opportunity to take a look at trend data so that we can see where we've been and where we're heading and to see if we are in need of any additional services. This first chart here outlines the growth of our early intervention programs. So these are students who are transitioning into kindergarten who have support services through IU13 as part of early intervention. So each year we go through a process to do reevaluations and records reviews of each of those students. So you can see there that each year we have a few more students, and truly this is initial data. Each year we get a number of move-ins and late identified students as we go through the process. The eligibility categories that we typically are seeing as the students transition in are autism, developmental delay, and speech or language impairment. Of our students who are transitioning for 24-25, out of those 89 students, at this point, 42 already need specialized special education settings. So they're headed to specialized programs, smaller classes. And this year specifically, we had 8 students who needed a special autistic support class, 25 who needed diagnostic kindergarten, 4 that needed emotional support, 3 multiple disabilities support, and 2 that needed instruction in the home right out of the gate coming into kindergarten. The next slide outlines
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is that, if you go back to the previous slide, if you go back 3 or 4 years prior, was that also less?
Yes.
Okay.
Every year,
It keeps
and
increasing?
typically those initial numbers, it's anywhere from 7 to 10 more students each year on those initial numbers, but we actually get those in November. So like I said, they continue to increase. We just did a late day and picked up 11 more students from the late identification process.
So if you were going to go 10 years prior to 2022, what would that number probably have been? Just a guess.
At that point, I think we were in the 40s.
40s, okay.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
It's been a growing trend, especially in the area of autism. We've had, even district-wide, we have added 2 additional autistic support classes above and beyond the elementary classes that we already had, and we also house 2 IU classes in district that are full of Hempfield students for the growing need.
Thank you.
Sure. The next slide, this is just district enrollment in general. Now this data is from last school year. When we work on the plan, they send us our finalized numbers from the year. So you'll see there we are continuing to have an upward trend also in total enrollment. So last school year, nearly 21% of our student body had some sort of specialized instruction through an IEP. Of those 1,476 students, Mike, next slide. There we go. This is just the breakdown, and you'll see that specific learning disability, other health impairment, and autism are the areas where we tend to have the most students who are in need of specialized support. So within the district, we are fortunate to be able to provide a lot of programming for students. We have autistic support programs, learning support, life skills support. We have emotional support, both school-based emotional support as well as our therapeutic programs over at Landisville Education Center. Absolutely. So what is autistic support there? Those are our full-time autistic support classes. So those are classes that cap at 8 students and have very specialized programming called verbal behavior, where paraprofessionals and teachers are providing one-on-one instruction the entire day. And those are the classes that I said are really exploding, and we continue to need more and more. Learning support, we have a full continuum from itinerant learning support to supplemental learning support to full-time, and that goes from kindergarten the entire way up through graduation, which is now, for some of our students, age 22. Life skills support is a full-time placement, and we do have a full continuum, 2 classes at the elementary level, 1 at the middle level, and then 2 at the high school level. Plus then we move into things like transition beyond the classroom, where we're able to offer opportunities to students once they're ready to start really working on independent skills. Emotional support, our classes typically range from supplemental support to full-time support. And then when we get to contracted services later, you'll see that we still contract through the IU for itinerant emotional support. And then speech and language support is also a service that we provide, which would be at the itinerant level.
Just before you go on, mention caps. Caps are determined, correct, by the state, the IDEA regulations.
Correct.
And that also caps the size of caseloads for depending on the things. Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
There's even room requirements for so many
Right.
square feet.
Yes. And that's all determined by the state.
I also have a question. I looked at these slides earlier, and I don't recall if it was answered or not. You mentioned several times, and we saw it on a graph, the growth, and particularly for autistic support. Do you have projections of what that growth might look like over the next 5 or 10 years? We need to consider as a board strategic plans, which would include staffing as well as physical space, and we're looking for to renovate and remodel, which is going to be a huge project of several years. So do you have that type of information that you're going to share tonight, or that you can share with us?
I don't have a
later?
slide for it tonight, but we have been collecting data, and we have a spreadsheet where we know at what point we're going to need a second middle school class. What's happening with early intervention is we truly are getting classes of 8 and 10 students at a time that are all the same grade level. So they are advancing through those classes together, but we get almost landlocked because we don't have any space to put any more students in because everyone's in the same grade level. And so we are 2 years away from needing 2 middle school classes, and we are 4 years away from needing another high school class. The high school piece is variable because some of the students, once they get to high school, they then head to life skills or the transition beyond the classroom, or maybe an IU program. So that one, there's a chance that we won't need that class, but definitely middle school. This year we only have 2 students moving up to the middle school, and then we have whole cohorts of anywhere from 8 to 16 students that will all be aging up at the same time.
Now, there's a steering committee. Do I have the right title? I think I'm on it.
Yes.
Yes, you are. Thank you, and we very much appreciate your input. Yes.
I signed up for it. So is this the type of information that you're going to be presenting and we will be discussing on that committee as we look at the entire program?
It was not something that's actually part of this plan in terms of the growth, but it's definitely something that we could look at doing so that we can start planning and really looking at what those numbers look like.
Down the road.
I think we might need those numbers sooner than later.
Right.
Absolutely.
So-
Yes, thank you.
This kind of mirrors my previous question, but I like Doug, Tab, and Mike to weigh in on this. I guess I struggle, is the criteria changing? Because I struggle thinking the special needs is going up that rapidly. Are kids changing? I mean, or is the criteria changing? Could you, any of you weigh in on that?
Sure. So, yes, there are a number of medical professionals and outside agencies that are providing autism diagnoses at a very rapid rate. But those are not the students that would qualify for an autistic support class. Our students that qualify for autistic support are typically completely nonverbal when they come in to kindergarten, and so we're working on unlocking their communication. If they are able to make utterances, we're working on verbal speech. If they're not, we're teaching sign. We're getting communication devices, and that number has greatly increased. Typically, the students who come into early intervention already with autism are part of that type of student that are nonverbal and need that really specific programming. So yes, that number is continuing to grow.
So kids being born are being born with a higher rate of special needs.
And it's not just here in Hempfield, it's across the county. Right.
Across the world.
Yes, it is.
Across the country.
Yes.
There's been a big push from the early intervention side for over the last several years. And so right now, what we're finding is, years ago, it used to be kind of right around that time kids were going to kindergarten. When they would go to their pediatrician for their annual physical, and parents or a pediatrician may recognize something, ask questions about it, or start to have some conversations. Like, you may want to have some conversations when you enroll your child in kindergarten. Over the last probably 10 years or so, 15, there's been a big push to get to parents at an earlier stage in the child development, really around birth. And so there have been a lot of initiatives across the state, across the country, that have been focusing on meeting with families and parents of newborns to help educate them on developmental milestones. If you're not seeing them, how to bring those questions or concerns up, whether it's with a pediatrician or some other medical professional. And then there's been also a big push through the early intervention services through the local IUs, which support the families and the students who need the early intervention, whether it's through preschool programming or alike. And that's where a lot of the emphasis has been over the last several years. And that's why you are seeing a higher rate of students being classified and needing the support. And then that's why you're also seeing a lot of that support being in place. And then the transition coming into the public education system is, are we able to provide that type of service, or do we need to find something else? And that's where all of those early intervention meetings go on. I'm sure Meredith will tell you, it probably feels like forever with all the meetings that she sits in for that. But it is a really long process from the fall through the time that they're actually coming in. And it is a lot of difficult conversations at times to try and figure out really what's best for the child in terms of that educational placement. But that big push on the birth to, kind of age 3 identification has been really prevalent over the last 10 to 15 years.
So is it possible that 20, 30, 40 years ago, a lot of these kids weren't identified and struggled, and we never identified that they needed help? Is that
Or it
true?
was when they came into the school system, they were identified at that point, but what they're finding is if they address and they can tackle that early, then it helps the students be more successful when they come in at the earlier ages.
Thank you.
So in order to run all our programs from all the continuum that Meredith had discussed with our various things that we have in the district, we have lots of awesome staff that help us with all the students. So the teachers, of course, they're planning, they're teaching, they're assessing the curriculum, they're writing lots of IEPs, they're writing reevaluation reports, they're doing progress monitoring, and they serve as the case managers for the students and the caseloads that they manage. Then we have our school psychologists that are evaluating, they're interpreting the data, they're sharing the findings, they're doing observations, they're getting information from the regular education teachers, from the speech teacher, whatever the services the students have. They're conducting, when they're able and they have time, they're conducting social skill lessons, and they are critical members of our IST teams and also our SET teams throughout the district. Of course, then we have our speech and language pathologists who see many students, direct instruction in small groups, and also go in the classrooms. They're assessing the students' lessons and learning. They're also writing many IEPs, monitoring all those progress for each marking period, writing reevaluations, sharing findings and observations for the students, and they are also the case managers for all their students. And many of our students have various services, so they might have a main case manager of the special education teacher, plus have a speech teacher, maybe an occupational therapist, physical therapist. Every student is different and have individual needs, so we have lots of team members. Then we have occupational therapists that are also doing lessons and learnings. A lot of times the occupational therapists share with the regular education teachers things that they can do in the classroom. They're also writing IEPs and monitoring that progress and contributing to all the reevaluations. And we do a lot of screenings for occupational therapy as well to see if that is a need. And we're lucky enough that we have had now, the second year, right, that we have a BCBA, our behavior analyst. She comes in, she supports our whole district, and she also is part of the IST teams, the SET teams. She does the training for our CPI training for crisis intervention. She helps support teachers write functional behavior analysis and positive behavior support plans. And she does a lot of professional development with our regular ed staff and our special ed staff. And then many of you know we have Miss Witter, who's our exceptional student specialist. She's our special ed coach and also our gifted coordinator. She supports many, many teachers and students, whether it's getting a new student orientated and doing some baseline data, helping the teacher collect that. Also supporting with progress monitoring, offering different intervention recommendations. She does a lot of observations, does a lot of professional development as well, and she does sit on many of our teams in our different schools as well. And then we also have our paraprofessionals who we couldn't support our students in so many programs without them. We have our paraprofessionals that support an entire class, which is helping the teacher possibly teaching a math group or setting up the classroom, doing daily duties, doing a lot of things with progress monitoring because we're required to do that. And then we have many of our paraprofessionals who just support their individual student, whatever their specific needs are or their care for the day, whether it's toileting or supporting them in the regular class or getting them to the gym class or helping feeding, whatever the student may need.
In addition to the services that we provide in-house, we also have several services that we contract through IU13. So that includes physical therapy, hearing support, vision support, itinerant autistic support, itinerant emotional support, multiple disabilities support, and also center-based programming for our students with emotional, behavioral, social needs, as well as autism. So as we look to the next 3 years of the plan, some of the goals that we put together for the department, first would be making sure that we're implementing consistent programming and expectations across all levels and all buildings. This is something that we've really been committed to this year, taking a deeper dive into how information is being communicated to parents, how progress monitoring is happening, what are the different types of programs that our staff have so that they are able to meet student IEP goals. We also want to just continue to explore, is there a way for us to expand the continuum of services that are available to our students within the district? And then our last goal, increasing communication and resources available to parents of exceptional students. We were really excited this year to relaunch our Hempfield partnership for exceptional children, and we can't wait till next year when we're going to have an opportunity to provide parents with networking and collaboration, as well as access to community resources and also training in some of those areas that parents have been requesting. So in terms of the submission process, the plan had to be accessible for 28 days on our website. So we did post a draft of the plan on April 22nd, so May 20th will be our 28 days. And then we will need the board to vote on our plan before we can submit it. And so the plan would be for it to be an action item on the May 28th committee meeting agenda.
So this process is very similar to the comp plan, which many of you are familiar. This is actually a subset of the comp plan, a little bit more in depth on the special ed side, because if we had all the same special ed components within the comp plan, it would then be 450 pages as opposed to the 300 it is now.
Any questions?
This is a question I often ask after one of these reports. Can you tell us what your top 3 needs are, whether it be personnel, space, supplies, more contract, whatever those top 3 needs are?
I've been quiet. Can I get one of those?
Yep.
You can go first, though.
Personnel.
Okay. Personnel is very broad. I can remember
Yep.
lengthy discussions about speech therapists, whether they should be part-time or full-time, and I was of the opinion that whatever we need, that's what we need to
The
get.
board's been very receptive to those
Yep.
conversations.
Right.
A lot of time you'll see that speech is accompanied with students with autism for the obvious
Okay.
reasons. So you see an increase in those numbers, obviously you're going to see a related increase to speech therapy.
Yeah, I mean, in general, with the number of students that we're serving, we do feel like we're very thin in terms of being able to offer things like supplemental learning support in all of our buildings, so that students don't have to leave their home building if they need to have that level of support. Itinerant learning support teachers. We have a need for always more speech therapists, occupational therapists, as well as school psychologists.
Are you keeping count of that? How many is that?
I know, she asked.
Well, it's about
Personnel
5
is always
categories.
Oh, it's all in
but
one category.
We could
but
use more paras also.
with more, which I don't know how to quantify more, except more than what you have.
Correct.
Right. Now, in the past, the therapists were difficult to find. That was part of the problem with the speech therapist, that there weren't that many applicants. Is that an issue? Still an issue?
We ran into that problem when we were offering part-time contracts, but since we offered full-time, we actually were really lucky. We were able to fill 2 positions just recently. So we were really fortunate with that. Same thing with school psychologists. We went through kind of a drought period, but I do think some of that is the cycle of their graduation because they have to complete a year-long internship first. So really there's only new applicants coming out in the spring. But we were actually fortunate to hire 2 school psychologists really recently as well.
So is there a shortage of the therapists and psychologists now, or those positions
We're
are
going to be
pretty
fully
steady
staffed.
We are fully
We are
staffed.
fully staffed.
for that? So when you supplemental staff, are those certified teachers,
Yes.
paraprofessionals? Who is that?
So supplemental learning support is typically, and the criteria is not hard and fast, but typically that is for students who are at least 2 grade levels behind in both ELA and math. And so they are in need of replacement instruction within their day. It's also a smaller setting. We cap those classes at 15 at the intermediate level, 12 at the primary level, and 15 at the secondary level. 20 at the secondary level. And so right now in our elementary buildings, we have 4 primary classes that feed into 5 intermediate classes. But it would be really helpful if we were able to offer that support in each of our buildings, because we're having to send students across district to get that
one-
service.
Just help me understand. I know I'm getting down in the weeds. 1 person per building extra or 2? And are they certified teachers? Or
Yes,
are they,
they're learning support teachers.
Certified they're,
special ed. Yes.
they're certified?
Special ed, yeah.
Okay. 1, 2?
It just depends. So, for example, the Landisville
But
campus,
they can float.
they
needed,
can't
too.
float because they have students all day long in their classroom.
Sure.
The Landisville campus has a primary class and an intermediate class.
Right.
Centerville Elementary has both. Farmdale Elementary has both. Rohrstown Elementary has both. But East Petersburg Elementary only has the intermediate class. So anyone in grades 1 through 3 who need that level of support have to go to another building.
And we
And
transport
Mountville
them.
doesn't have any.
Yes, we transport.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for your hard work and for this presentation. It's been very informative.
Excuse me. I would have gone first if I was going to know she was going to take
Well,
that one.
I'm just telling them thank you. You can talk all you want to.
So one of the things that I'm incredibly proud of and is all the programming that we do offer in the district, and I think you even heard that in the room tonight. So I just want to continue to work with the team and explore creative, fiscally responsible ways to get programming in our walls, because when you sit at the table with our families and you bring them back from an outside placement and they get to be part of the school and we get to do some of those transitions, that's a really exciting time for all parties involved. So we want to continue to explore that and take advantage of some of the facilities that are already currently present in the district. And now I'm done.
I will say I came on the board 5 years ago, I guess, and the special ed was a big issue because it was so small and it was exploding at that time. And I'm just really proud of the work that you've done for our children and our families. So thank you, and thank you to the staff. Your paraprofessionals at the Christmas fair, I was really, really impressed with them as well. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Just one other item for the board members. This is going to be an action item on the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. So again, we have to have at least 5 board members there to actually vote on it. It's my understanding that we do need to approve the plan on the 28th. So if you're not planning on being there, let Mr. Bromersky or Dr. Musser or myself know, just so we know there'll be 5 members there.
Yeah, hopefully there will be, because we are kind of on an extended timeline with the state. So if for some reason there is an issue, if you can let me know sooner than later, because we would need to follow back up with the state so we can make sure our submissions received when we shared that with them that it would be. The other piece that I have from the superintendent's report, just an update. It's hard to believe that we're getting ready to wrap up the end of the school year and celebrate with the class of 2024 next Wednesday evening. But I think it's important that we take a moment to reflect on the wonderful accomplishments from the past year. And so these accomplishments are a direct result of our amazing staff who serve our students. I'd like to thank our staff, not only who are here this evening, but all around the district. Some of the things that I'm going to share, please know that this is not an exhaustive list. These are just a few examples that highlight some of the wonderful work accomplished this year, and many more have been shared either online, through social media, during our meetings this year, meetings elsewhere, and or in our Monday celebration messages that we send out on a weekly basis. So I'm going to run through some of them. We had 2/3 of our elementary teachers and reading specialists who piloted a new reading program to help us ultimately select a consistent reading program for starting in the 24-25 school year. We had middle school math teachers who piloted new math materials. We know our performing arts program is simply amazing, from Fiddler on the Roof to the 40th anniversary of Dance Theater to artists in residence that have occurred this year, concerts. I was honored to go with the chamber choir for their amazing performance in Erie, the amazing art shows that we've seen, our marching nights. We've had many successful student awards and accomplishments, and just the opportunities for our students to shine in the spotlight, whether on stage, on a field, all the extracurricular opportunities. We had our English language development staff had many events through the course of this year to better connect with families, and just last week they had an end of the year celebration, Fun Fest at LMS. We know this time of year there's a lot of events. It's field day season, so our PE teachers have planned great events for this time of the year, keep our students moving and active, some great healthy competition, despite having to dodge some of the spring showers. Our school counselors assisted in reviewing and evaluating different platforms to look at how we can strengthen our career awareness and post-secondary education process. There are not many after-school times or evenings in the high school when that high school is quiet and or empty. So whether it's from clubs to sporting events to student activities, our staff collectively are there to support the many programs. You've heard new courses being presented, committee meetings, so whether some examples, the college and the high school courses with new BCIT, FCS courses, the sports officiating course. Last week we celebrated School Nurse Day. Our amazing nursing team provides great services. We have 4 amazing social workers who really provide daily advice and support and remove obstacles when they can. I can keep going, the list is just, goes on and on, but it is with great honor and pride that we recognize and support our staff. I do think do want to acknowledge that it is important to note that supporting our staff does not mean that we go against board policy. I know there's been information shared online, and so I want to be clear that supporting our staff, recognizing them, honoring them, and their great work, that is not political. As I shared the examples this evening, shared meetings throughout the course of the school year, this is easy to do because we have an amazing staff. When we do have things that come through distribution of materials on school property, that's policy 913, and we have a process in place for any non-school organization who seeks to distribute information on school property. And so we have a process to follow, but if that's not followed and our permission is not asked, then we can't allow anyone to distribute the materials. But it does not mean we don't support our staff. It is great to see the turnout tonight. And so thank you. Please, continue. You're welcome to come to the meetings at any time. But for our community members who are here or listening online, you don't just have to come here to show your support for our staff. You can reach out to them directly. If you're not sure even how to do that, reach out to us and we'll pass it on to them, whether it's through our celebration messages. We've had staff at times, or community members at times reach out to us and or staff members who have shared things, and we say, hey, can we share this and get this out around the district? And generally that answer is yes, or just take my name off of it because I don't want the attention. And that's fine, and we're happy to do that. So I do want to thank everybody for an absolutely wonderful school year. It's hard to believe that it is wrapping up next week. And then just for our board members, to remind you that we will see you next Wednesday evening. I know all of you are going to be there, which is absolutely wonderful, to celebrate our class of 2024. And in board docs for you, you do have a copy of the special education plan, and you also have the calendar of events. We do have another meeting this Thursday for Education Program Policy, Personnel and Legal. You already heard at the end of the month, May 28th is Buildings and Grounds and Finance. Excuse me, and the last report you have is the enrollment report for the month of May. That wraps up the superintendent's report. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Borowski.
Thank you.
And also thank you for reminding me I have a challenge next week to give a graduation speech, which
Yes,
I
you
don't
do.
mind being board president, but it's really enjoyable to hand out the diplomas. The last time I did it, we were wearing masks, so this time,
No
unless
masks.
some disaster happens between now and next Wednesday, I won't be wearing a mask, which will make it a whole lot more enjoyable for me.
And it is supposed to be sunny and partly cloudy.
Sunny and partly cloudy.
That's what I'm saying, 2 things, either
Okay.
sunny or partly cloudy.
Okay,
I'm not
all right.
seeing any of that wet stuff.
I just figured that's good.
That's good.
Okay. As many of you are here tonight and know there's information online about our teacher's contract, our teacher's current contract runs through the end of June. We have been engaged in negotiations since January and will continue to do so until we reach a fair contract for both the district and our teachers association. So I just want to make the public aware that we are in the process of negotiating with them. And the second part that at least partially ties into this is funding. I had sent out an email to the board at the, this is May, so in the April board meeting, Mr. Bomerski discussed very well how schools are funded in Pennsylvania. And one of the recommendations, or one of the thoughts, was to pass a resolution to support the recommendations of the Basic Education Funding Commission and address other financial implications for our schools. And I shared that with all the board members, so, and I told you I was going to bring it up for discussion so we could possibly get it on the agenda to actually approve the resolution at the policy meeting on Thursday. I will tell you, with this, passing this resolution isn't going to get Hempfield more money from the state. As Mr. Roberski said, they basically sending emails, sending letters, whether it comes from us, teachers, taxpayers, doesn't really make a difference to them. What really makes a difference from what he's brought up and what I've been able to do is if you go out and talk to them and actually speak to them. It's the only way you're going to do that. Just a quick review, Hempfield's budget, about 70%, 72% of it comes from local property taxes. About 1% comes from the federal government, and the rest, which is about 27%, comes from the state. Other districts in the state, it's completely reversed. 27% or 30% comes from local property taxes, and the other 70% comes from the state. The system is not adequate. I believe I said that when we were discussing the budget at the last Buildings and Grounds meeting. I think one of the comments I made, and I learned this almost, I've been on the board with Mrs. Johnson, it's 5.5 years at this point. One of the things I figured out almost immediately was how schools are funded is totally broke. And it's not going to be successful to continue on like this. And we all have the ability to change it. But it's going to require everyone, not just the 9 of us, not the administrators, everyone, the public, teachers, you are the public, to go and talk to your representatives and talk about funding. It's my understanding, I think I read this in the paper, and I think Mr. Bomerski even said this, that the current budget that they're trying to pass by June 30th, the basic thing that's keeping it not being passed is funding for schools. Obviously, when you have a Democratic-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate, that makes a difference. And it's going to be difficult. A few of us attended breakfast with Representative Miller and Senator Almond, and he did say that we would probably get, but neither are one to promise, but probably would get some sort of increase. Is it going to be the 1.8 or 1.9 million that was in a recommendation that would come to Hempfield? No, that's not going to happen. It'll probably be a few $100,000, which is what it standardly is. The only advantage I could see this year is the fact that the House and at least half of the Senate is up for re-election, so I don't think hopefully they won't make the budget drag out like they have in some years I've been on the board. If you remember, one year the budget wasn't passed until, I think it was January, and they basically went from passing the budget to going through the same thing again with this. We were fortunate at that time because we had fund balance. A lot of teachers had to borrow, or a lot of districts had to borrow money because without their share of the state money, they couldn't pay their bills. So it's the purpose of bringing up the resolution. Again, if we're not all going to support it, you've read it, to me, it's either all or nothing at this point. It's sort of not like voting for an agenda item where the majority wins, because I would encourage you, if we do pass this, to go and, where it would be effective, go and speak to the to our local representatives and take a copy along. If we pass it, it'll be on the website. You can ask Mr. Roversky. He would forward it to you and take it along and speak to him about it, because again, it's just my opinion, if something doesn't change in the system, it's going to become more and more difficult to fund public education. So, and that's my piece about it. I said we would discuss it. Anyone like to talk about it at this point? You've all read it. In case you don't, just because I used to be a teacher, I did come prepared with copies if you want me to.
I printed
pass
out
it.
a copy, I got it. Thank you for your work on that, and I appreciate it. And I do think it's important that collectively as a board, we do speak up for funding for our school district, and appointments are on the calendar to see our representatives, and a thank you note was sent to one who has supported the Basic Education Funding Commission majority report. So individuals can do it and groups can do it, and we
Yeah,
can
like-
take the lead on it, and then people can jump on it, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I think it's us taking a lead on it, pointing out how critically important it is that the system has changed, and setting an example with potential wording, if people want to use our resolution for wording, should we agree to pass it. But I don't think that doing nothing is an option. We all have to, if you can make that appointment with the representatives, do that. If you can't, then pick up the phone and make the phone call. If you can't, or you just don't have that in you, don't not write the letter. You know, yes, the personal visit is the most impactful. But if you just can't or won't do that, please write the letter. Write letters to the editor. Let them know that the public is watching and that the public would like to not have their taxes raised as much from local side, that the state could help fund it and rearrange the disparities in the funding from district to district, because it has been determined to be unconstitutional. It does not meet the Pennsylvania constitutional mandate of public education. So now we have to figure out how to do that.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask if anyone, I think probably the best thing, because I don't want board members to be singled out, I'm just going to ask that it be brought up on the policy meeting. It's just an item for, you could discuss it again, because then we could actually do it officially and be brought up to pass the resolution. If Mr. Keener, if you have no problems with that, or if you have a better way of recommending it.
Oh, you're asking me?
I'm asking you.
Oh.
You're the policy. I'm sort of putting you in the spot.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
passing the buck.
Certainly, if we want to put this on the agenda for Thursday, that's fine. I don't know where I stand on this personally. I mean, I agree with you, Mr. Donato, that there are serious issues with how public education is funded in Pennsylvania. I think that there are unfunded mandates around charter schools, cyber charter schools, work rules, a whole bunch of things that cost districts a lot of money and don't reward teachers for what they do. My concern about this, my understanding of the recommendation, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's going to continue to flow what we call new money through an adjusted formula that disadvantages higher wealth districts like Hempfield. And I'm not saying that there aren't inequities in the system. I think there are. But my concern is we were elected to represent this district, and I'm hesitant to support a resolution that advocates a funding structure that ultimately disadvantages the district that we serve. Now, maybe I'm misunderstanding the math of the formula, but I think what the BEF says is that new money is supposed to flow through in a way that doesn't necessarily help us. And that is my concern. But I'm happy to hear if my understanding of it is not correct.
I thought there was some work showed recently with these two reports that we would get additional money.
Correct.
Okay.
If they go
We
with,
get additional money, but not as much additional money because of the formula.
so it goes back to the presentation that I did and things that we've shared. So it really depends on what recommendations would be accepted from either report at any point through the legislature. And we have the BEF, Basic Education Funding Formula, where we get X amount of money, and the current majority report that was approved would reset the base, and the minority report that was not approved also talked about needing to reset the base, and the hope is that they would reset the base to last year. So we would not lose money there. So we would get what we got last year, and that included an increase in some additional spending in special ed and a little bit on basic ed funding formula. If you run all the money through the basic ed funding formula itself, the new money, we end up actually not losing money. We get, I think in the past it was around $400 and some extra $1,000, give or take. When you look at the new report that was issued and approved from the majority report, they tackled it in a variety of ways. Yes, there's new money running in, so it's not that we're necessarily losing money, but what they did is they identified model districts across the state. We were identified as a model district, and they looked at how much spending you are currently doing per student. And they averaged that out across the state. And so our spend was around a little over $12,000 when they calculated everything. The average spend in the state was around $13,000 and change. So then what they did is they took that $1,000, multiplied it out. So if they were to approve the majority report, then we would get an additional $9.4 million over 7 years. So they that's the big debate right now in Harrisburg. Is this extra money? It's not necessarily resetting the base. It's not necessarily flowing money through the BEF formula. It's how is the state going to pay for that adequacy gap that they want to be able to close with all of the schools that have been determined across the state that they have not been funded properly in the past. This is their effort to try and close that gap, and we've been identified as a district that hasn't received the proper funding, if you will, historically. And so this is that effort to try and redo that. One way that we are hearing that there may be some compromise around this extra money is doing something around the cyber charter spend. Because as I've shared with you, our cyber charter dollars are basically consistent to what they were in 2020, 2021, but we have less kids going to cyber charter. And cyber charters can charge more and get more for students and not provide the same level of service. And cyber charters do not play in the same ballpark, even though they're considered public ed, that we do. They don't have the same expectations. And so there's been a lot of advocacy over the years to try and address that. And if they address the cyber charter cost and have a state flat rate and implement a tiered special ed system for cyber charter students, that is a way for districts to recoup natural dollars that we're already sending out. And so there is talk, and there does seem to be some compromise and willingness, and we've heard this from both sides of the aisle in Harrisburg. I was just there 2 weeks ago, that they recognize this has to be done. So we think that may be the avenue of trying to get some compromise, but ultimately we do keep hearing, as Mr. Donato shared, really don't expect a state budget by June 30th. And so what we did at the request of trying to come up with a resolution was not just target BEF, but also look at other things. So I do encourage you to look at it. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And if anyone is not sure how to contact any of our local legislators, whether it's on the board, community, whatever, please reach out. We'll help you do that. It's very easy to do, and they are very responsive to school staff, which is great. So.
And it's currently, again, they will pass a budget, and all new money currently, to make it, because I like using simple amounts, if the current state budget for education for this year is $10 and they raise it to $11, that extra dollar goes through the bed. And they've been doing it all for a while. I think the only year they didn't do it was COVID, if I remember from your presentation, the year of COVID, and they just froze everything that year, so there really wasn't any new money with it. So again, Dr. Munster, it's your policy, and I know it's late. Could you please include this on?
Yeah, anything that brings more people out, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I mean, you're obviously doing well.
Well, try maybe lunch in the high school. You know I can't pass that up.
I like lunch.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, it'll be up for vote on Thursday to pass the resolution. Again, it's not binding other than you have it. And with that, that concludes the president's report. And we'll go on to representative and adjunct reports, Lancaster County Career and Technology Center, Mr. Keener.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Donato. A lot going on at the CTC right now. So first, some wonderful news. Some of our students were recognized as Students of the Month for March. Kylie Moline in the Advanced Health Careers Program at Mount Joy. Zoe Allman in the Animal Production Science and Technology Program at Willow Street. Both were recognized as Students of the Month. And Cheyenne Helmick received a second place award at the Skills USA competition. Skills USA is sort of the CTC Olympics, basically, nationwide, where students from around the country come and demonstrate the things that they have learning. So congratulations to Ms. Moline, Ms. Allman, and Ms. Helmick on their recognition.
Were those all Hempfield students?
Yeah, those are
Okay.
Hempfield students, yes. Dr. Stuart Savin, who has been the administrative director of the CTC since about 2017, 2018, has announced that he will be leaving the CTC not later than this coming February. So the JOC will be starting to enter into a search process for a new leader of the CTC. And obviously we thank Dr. Savin for his service and wish him well in his future endeavors. We got the results of the 22-23 audit back. The CTC's post-secondary programs, many people are unaware that in addition to providing services to high school age students, there's also an adult education side of it that provides career and technical education to adults in the community. That recorded a surplus of about $700,000 last year. $100,000 of that will be refunded to the sending districts in proportion to the funding formula. About $50,000 will go into a planning and development fund, and the balance is going to go into a capital reserve fund to support ongoing capital needs of the CTC. So continuing to look at how those things develop. And there continues to be discussion around districts sharing information about student and disciplinary and health information once they're admitted so that the CTC can properly serve those students. Hempfield, thanks to Mr. Graham, has drafted an agreement that we think is sort of the model for other districts to use that ensures that districts are providing the CTC with the information that it needs while also ensuring that the information is held in the proper confidence. And that concludes my report. I am happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Keener, just one. I'm not sure if they shared at your meeting the results of the NOCTI assessments, which the students of the CTC take to demonstrate their skills in addition to the other piece. And I have not calculated it, but just taking a glance, because I received it last week while I was out, but it looks like overwhelmingly the majority of our students from Hempfield attending the CTC received either competent or advanced on the written and performance components of the NOCTI. So that's really great to see.
Thank you for sharing.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on, IU13, Mr. Maris.
Nothing new to report.
Thank you. Hempfield Rec Center, Mrs. Brady.
The only thing we've had since the last time I reported, I did, although Mr. Wagner may have been on a separate subcommittee meeting, then I was part of a finance committee meeting this morning. It was fairly uneventful and a happily quick meeting because we knew this one was going to be long. But they did report that any of you that are members and are at the rec center regularly, the roofing project is done and all of the new weight and fitness equipment is in, and I understand the room has been rearranged and is looking sharp, and people are really liking the results of that. Our next full meeting, board meeting, is next week, so I think neither of us will be able to attend that because it is graduation, so we'll be at graduation instead.
Unless it rains.
Unless
in which case
it's
we
not.
can get to. No, it's supposed to be partly cloudy and sunny, remember?
And sunny, at the same time.
Right, at the exact same time. It's gonna snow too, Mike.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing much more to report, other than there just continues to be conversation around, from strategic planning sessions around just how to enhance the space within the rec, and how to enhance programs for membership. So those conversations and meetings continue. They will continue to figure out ways to build that out and enhance what we already have.
Okay, questions for? Okay, moving on, safety and security, Mr. Garber. He's there.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry, I was
okay.
having a problem with my mic. Nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you. PSBA,
Mr.
Mrs.
Donato.
Asher.
Sorry, just one thing
Oh.
on, I was just going to add on safety and security. So Bill Gleason, as our safety and security supervisor administrator who's appointed, it's required by law. New legislation was issued this year. Our staff who are here know and are listening online, there was new safety training that was required that we put in place for all staff. But Mr. Gleason actually has to attend specific training by February 1st of 2025. He has completed that training already, and that is done. So he is well ahead of that requirement. So there won't be any issues for the upcoming year from our safety report that we'll be issuing to you as a board in June.
Okay, thank you. PSBA, Mrs. Asherman.
Just that tonight on the agenda, I guess I'm going to go to the delegate assembly in the fall. Since I'm new, that'll be good.
All right, and that is a voting item later. Okay, standing committees, buildings and grounds, Mr. Maris.
Yeah, our last buildings and ground, we talked about lead water testing results. Fadavia gave a presentation on capital projects we're reviewing, a lot of questions, discussion. As well, the Building and Ground Committee has been spending a lot of time with architects. We've interviewed a number. We've narrowed it down to a couple, and we've visited some sites, the committee this past Tuesday, and we are deliberating, and hopefully we'll have a decision on selecting an architect in the next few weeks.
Okay, questions? Okay, moving on, finance, Mr. Wagamuth.
We covered a good bit of ground. We started with a presentation from Mrs. Hall around a food service profit sharing proposal, and Mrs. Melendez answered some of the questions that the board had. We moved on to a review of the announcement system and an update from Mr. Graham, and so more to come on that. We also worked through some budget discussions in regards to taxes and a budget resolution. You'll see some of those things are on the agenda tonight for approval. We also had some contracts for review. They are also on the agenda for approval. Actually, I think we already approved those. So we did approve a few financial action items as well as part of that meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, education and programs, Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you. We covered quite a bit because it's the end of the year when we get reports. So if you want the details of those reports, please refer to our minutes and documents there. I want to highlight music theater and theater arts. We will continue to have theater. We will continue to have a quality program that we can bring our families to. One of my gifts to my kids this Christmas, my adult kids, was Broadway tickets. We get what is known as just a real bargain with what we have here in our community. Their tickets were, I'm not even going to tell you how much I gave them, but I just, as a theater goer, I appreciate the work of our music department and of all the different people who contribute to that. Just want to assure us, just offer assurance we will continue to have excellence in that program and in the arts as well, as we've seen with the different art programs and the music programs as well that often have come back with medals when they've gone to the competitions. that's probably the main thing, because everything else is like Schoology updates, comprehensive plans, second step. We're almost out of that connecting phase from elementary to middle school and working through that. And actually, most of you teachers could tell us more about those things than I can at this point, but everything's coming along nicely, and I appreciate that that is what's going on. I mean, that there's no hiccups. So, thank you.
Any questions? Okay, Policy, Personnel, and Legal, Mr. Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. The Policy, Personnel, and Legal Committee also met on April 18th, and it was a very quick meeting. We advanced several policies for second reading, one for first reading, as indicated on tonight's agenda, and also will be retiring one policy that is no longer necessary in light of revisions to another policy. I am pleased to report that the meeting lasted exactly 5 minutes, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. And I've never, it's the first time tonight to actually retire a policy.
Yes.
Never had that experience. Okay, moving on. Approval of action. This is the voting items, personnel action items. I need a motion to approve personnel action items 9, numbers 1 through 10, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. If we don't get a second, we just sit here. Okay, any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And
Mr. Garbage, hands up.
yes, okay, so motion carries 9-0. Next will be the financial items. Motion to approve financial items 10B through I, which are contracts, the financial reports for the district, for food service, financial transactions, the food service employee profit sharing program, which Mr. Wagamuth mentioned, and the proposed resolution for the final budget. Again, for that part, we're doing this simply because it's required by law. We still can make changes to it when we actually approve it again when we finally approve it again in June. But it has to be on display, I believe, 30 days, correct? Okay, and which is why we're doing that. And then the last one on there is the district solicitor engagement letter. So need a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wagamuth.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Maris. Any discussion?
So we can discuss it again.
Okay. All right. All those in favor then? And see all the hands, so motion carries 9-0. Going on, there's no buildings and grounds action item. And then other action items, we're doing them sort of separate. First one there is 12A, a second reading of board policy 006.1, which is the use of electronic communications equipment.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Keener.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. Okay, motion carries 9-0. And then will be approval of the rest of the action items from C through M.
Is
You
this,
can see on there, please.
is this where we ask if something can be broken out and voted on separate?
Sure.
K, please.
Okay. Got a request to look and see what K is.
It's the
Good
theater
night.
course revision.
Okay, theater course revision. So let's go through and do action items C through M other than K, and then we'll vote for K separately. So C is as Mr. Keener said, the policy's coming up for first reading. D is the second reading of the board policies. E is something, again, we're retiring a board policy that's actually covered in another policy. Additional contracted transportation staff, which we have to approve. And probably the most important thing is the class of 24 candidates for graduation, approval of the board treasurer, the tax collector, Mrs. Eshelman is voting delegate, and the agricultural program, which I believe is permission to send students to Manheim Central to actually take their classes for this, and then permission to advertise for a non-school sponsored trip to Argentina. So can I have a motion to approve all those except for item K?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Brady. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, I believe that carries 9-0. And then the final action item before adjournment is K, which is the theater course revisions for the upcoming school year. So I'd like a motion to approve that, please.
So moved.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Johnson.
Mrs. Johnson, would you like to second it?
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mrs. Johnson and a second from Mr. Keener. Discussion.
I just wanted to say that although I appreciate the presentation given at the last Education Committee meeting about all of the shuffling and the rewording and reworking of the theater course, and all of the time and effort that went into doing that at the high school, there is a ripple effect, there is a morale effect. I feel like it's been done a bit in the recent past too, and we're kind of getting to our tipping point. And it's a short-term solution when we really should be thinking long-term vision for things like this. And so although it's kind of working around something right now, I don't think in the long run it's the best for our Hempfield students, and I just wanted to put that out there. And so for that reason, I'll not be voting to support it, but I just wanted to let people know my reasoning why.
I do have a question. When you say we've reached a tipping point, could you tell me more about that?
At the Education Committee, there was a lot of discussion about the reshuffling of courses at the high school and to meet to certifications of the different, like the music versus ELA and things like that. And so that shuffling is continuing, and I think it takes a lot of time and effort on the administration's side that could be used for better things. And I just don't want to keep functioning in that way. I know it's renamed and it's shifted to another space, but I don't want us always to have to be doing that, so that's why I'm going to vote no.
Any other questions?
Mrs.
Or
Johnson, do you have more
discussion?
to say? I don't
Well,
know what
I'm trying to process what you said. The shifting of teachers and
And
subjects.
renaming of classes in order to fit a certain certification. Like it was, this course was in an English, it was considered an English course. Now it's going to be considered a music course because of certifications and shifting around of staff. And I know the course is still going to be there, but now it's.
Well, there still is a theater under communications class.
I think it's under music now.
Is it all under music? I thought there was still one in the communications. No?
It's not going away. It's still available if we have, from a staffing standpoint,
If we
to
have
do it.
enough.
So this allows us to do music, and then in the future, if need be, it can go back because we're not taking away the course.
Communication, under communications
And I know the
instead of-
course isn't going away, but I don't want the continued renaming of things just to shuffle and make the puzzle work. And that's why, like I said, I'm voting no.
Well, and that course that has been renamed was not taught this year, correct? Okay.
I think it's also important to remind everyone that this doesn't mean there aren't going to be other theater opportunities. There's talk about revisiting maybe the fall play, some other plays that we could do, maybe not under the umbrella of a class, but still provide that co-curricular experience for students and faculty who are interested in the dramatic arts. So this is a necessary decision. I don't think anyone loves it, but it does not mean that students who want to engage in performance activities will not still have ample opportunity to do so.
Just long-term, I don't think it's what's best for our students.
Pardon me?
I said just long-term, I don't think it's what's best for our students.
And I'd agree. I mean, I think that's where my hesitation comes in. I want our students to still have the opportunity in the coming year, those that have signed up for it and want it and are ready to take it, I want them to have a course. I disagree that, I don't know if disagree is the right word, but I do agree with Mrs. Eshelman that this is a Band-Aid, and we have a lot of Band-Aids just to make it work. I appreciate immensely the amount of time that my understanding is mostly Dr. Brossman has put into figuring out the patchwork quilt here, and all of the teachers that are impacted by shuffling, whether they're teaching different courses than they taught last year or moving buildings, I don't know if anybody's moving buildings as a result, but just all the shifting around from department to department is not, I just am saying we need to find a way forward in our planning that is, like you said, more future visioned, that we're not patching it together at the end of each year.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none or hearing none, all those in favor, show of hands, please. Okay, opposed? I believe if I counted correctly, that's 7-2, the motion carries. And last thing, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries 9-0. We are adjourned. Thank you.